listening to the Dynamic Women podcast. Each week, you'll be inspired by our global community of women. They'll share with you tools and stories to help you be dynamic in every area of life. Here's your host, award-winning coach, and the CEO and founder of Dynamic Women, Diane Rolston.
Listening since the beginning of Dynamic Women, we have spent over a year together. But do you really know where I came from? Well, I thought I'd take the time in this episode to share a little bit more. Hello, Dynamic Woman, and welcome to the Dynamic Women podcast. I'm Diane Rolston, your host. And yeah, I'm going to go back a little bit to when I was a little girl and why I got into coaching. And why would I share a little bit more about myself? Well, we spend time together. If you're listening to this podcast, we spend time together. If you've been a client of mine or you've been in my Dynamic Women community, you've followed my stuff, you've been in a program, something, we've spent time together. And especially if you're a client, I know you quite well. Maybe I don't know your childhood story. Maybe I don't know how you got into what you did or what you're doing currently. But there's some merit in sharing. And so as I go through this, I want you to think also of like where I connected the dots. How are you connecting the dots as well for yourself? So let's start off in the beginning. Ever since I was little, I have just loved to teach. I also love to talk as well, but teaching was something I was praised for. But with the speaking, definitely not praised as a child. Because I had two older brothers, they were 4 and 8 years older, I was often told what to do, or I'd run behind them doing my best to get them to play with me. Eventually, I found some friends in my neighborhood. I taught them how to do crafts. I showed them the best place to toboggan, and I led them to some really cool places in the ravine behind my house. In school, the teacher would put the kids who struggled beside me so I could help them understand things in a different way if they didn't catch on to how the teacher taught it. I loved doing this. Using my creativity to teach it in a new way, that moment when they got it, the appreciation they felt, and how my teacher would continue to give me that responsibility. I then felt I was a leader. I went on to be my elementary school valedictorian, captain of sports teams, chair of clubs, and president of student council in high school, again, using my communication, teaching, and leadership skills. This drove me to do a double honors in English and MIT, Media, Information, and Technoculture at Western. And so I kept the door open to become an English teacher or a broadcast journalist, and I continued to play sports by being part of the varsity rugby team. Maybe you've been in that place of having two different passions, two things you wanted to pursue. And so rather than pick one, and when you weren't even sure, you kept both doors open. And that seemed to be a pattern for me throughout quite a bit of my youth. See, after graduating, I spent 3 years in Japan teaching ESL and doing narration work for companies like Toyota. And so there I was doing teaching and speaking, and a little bit of leadership. And when I returned, I did my ESL certification and started teaching right away in Toronto to immigrants. I loved that I wasn't just teaching them English, but a way of life. I was almost mentoring them in what they needed to do to be successful in starting their new life. When I moved to British Columbia from Ontario for love, and that is definitely another podcast, I started teaching for a company right away. And I quickly moved up the ranks to become the head instructor who helped hire, train, and support the teachers and develop curriculum for the students. So again, I'm using my teaching, my speaking, and my leadership skills. I was living in a beautiful city, making lots of new friends. I got engaged to my boyfriend at the time, and my desires to lead, teach, and speak were being rewarded in every possible way. But then why was I going home every night, wanting to re-energize somehow, sitting on the couch, drinking wine, eating crappy foods. Maybe you've had that kind of situation where you're just looking to escape somehow. Even worse, I didn't care to exercise. And coming from the life of being a competitive athlete, a varsity rugby player, a soccer player, and sports player from really my whole life, it was crazy. And the gaining of the weight really sucked. And I shut myself off from others. Now, I was still going to Toastmasters and other commitments as I was just keeping up appearances, putting on a happy face, or so I thought. Until one day my friend Roz said, "Diane, what's up? You've lost your spark." That was the moment where I couldn't hide it any longer. I knew something was missing, but I didn't know how to fix it. And that was the time that I couldn't put on a different face and just grin and bear it anymore. And the craziest thing was people around me who really knew me knew something was up. And then began some of the hardest times of my life. I didn't know what was wrong with me, air quotes, wrong. Why was I so tired? Why was I feeling unhappy? Was I just getting old? Why was I feeling empty? Was I marrying the wrong guy? I didn't know. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was wrong with me, what was wrong with my life. So I postponed my wedding, and well, that wasn't it either. I was looking for something outside of me to make it all better. And then one day, actually, while at work, I hit the bottom. It was at that moment I realized I needed someone outside to help me, to get some clarity on what I really wanted and what I needed to do and how I could get there faster than on my own. And so I got on Craigslist and I typed in life coach, and that's what everyone does that moment, right? I just had an urge to do it. And wouldn't you believe, a girl in Vancouver had posted only an hour before offering coaching to 4 people. Complimentary coaching. And at the time, saving for a wedding that may or may not happen, saving for a home in the Vancouver market. After moving here from Ontario with nothing but our car and basically the tools of our industry, it was just an amazing blessing. And so I emailed her right away, and I felt the yearning for more in life just pouring out of my fingers and into the keys. Cool thing is, she chose me. And that began my journey to where I am today. I'm not going to go into detail about what happened next, but I did eventually marry that man. I left that job, I bought a house, and we now have 2 beautiful children. I started the coaching certification process very shortly after working with her and immersing myself in not only the program, but applying everything I was learning by working with real people, not just anyone who'd listen. I read books, I listened to webinars, I hired a master coach, and then started training on how to get my message out there and deliver presentations that weren't lectures, but workshops, hands-on, real-time learning and application-style workshops with full engagement. About a year into running my own business, I was asked, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a business and life coach and workshop leader." And she followed by saying, "Yeah, but what do you do during the day?" I repeated myself, "I coach and lead workshops." "Oh, that's your job. You do that for real?" "I do, but it's not my job. It's my purpose." And it was such a cool day to get to that point, to be able to say that, to be able to express it, and to be able to know that peace that was missing for me. The peace that energizes me now. The peace that has me in alignment. The peace that has me in resonance. And I'm so blessed to have been able to coach men and women from all over Canada, the States, and beyond. I help them to leave 9-to-5s like I did, if that is right for them. And more importantly, I help them get back in tune with what really matters to them. Is it building a business that's profitable? Is it becoming more confident to go for what they want? Is it to get that clarity of what they really need and want in their lives? Not just in their career, but balancing it with all the other areas of life. Just like when I was little and sat beside those kids in school, I feel like the lucky one. being nourished by what I do, and proud of the impact I make. I've also become a mom to 2 kids and just so fulfilled that my business is in leading, building community, coaching and teaching, and doing it all my way and according to my values and my priorities and that of our family. So thank you so much for listening to a little bit more of my story. What was it that stood out for you? Was there some insight that you gained? And I ask this because I'm still on a learning journey of what I've been through. And I'm always open to insights from those around me. If you were like I was in that moment of just hitting bottom, or of not understanding why you have like a lack of energy or a lack of clarity in what you should be going for, or just the whole idea of what do I want just seems elusive, and reaching it is something that you can't attain, talk to me. Let's set up a coaching session. I'll walk you through it. Another cool place that I love to hang out is my Dynamic Women online community. So just search for Dynamic Women and join the online global community. You can do so in the Facebook group, or actually join the global club so we can spend more time together. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight into why I love to do what I do. There are definitely more stories and more things that have happened to me and for me in my life that have carved me and shaped me and put me into positions and opportunities where I've been able to grow and stretch and have the life I do today. So those will be for another podcast, another day. And I thank you. If you enjoy the Dynamic Women podcast, please hit subscribe and write a review. I am going to start reading the reviews of podcast listeners on the different episodes and giving you a shout out, and maybe sending you a little something in the mail as well. So please do that and share with a friend. Until next time, stay dynamic.
Thank you, Dynamic Women, for joining us today. Please hop on over to iTunes to subscribe and leave us a review. Who do you know who needs to hear our message? We'd love it if you'd share our channel with your friends and family. If you're ready to be more dynamic, have more balance and more success, head over to www.dynamicwomenclub.com/free gift for your Key to Success book. Stay dynamic.